Hello! Bl'Artagnan here with Hallowed Depths, Part 6, the Ardent Crevasse Shinryu fight. We're bringing an all-Greatsword team featuring 2 blue units and 1 black unit with Vayne, Exdeath, and Gladiolus. Almost said Galuf there. It's too many counter tanks with Greatswords and G names. Anyway, before we get too deep into it, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and leave a comment down below. I want to hear how you did in the fight, what you ended up bringing, what score did you get. I decided not to go for the max score on this. It really feels weighted towards having Arden and or Renoa on your team, and I don't have either of their FRs and have no real interest in going for their FRs, so here we are. That's okay though. We're going to be doing just fine in this fight with this team featuring some of my favorite units to use. Vayne, of course, been kind of my go-to FR for most content since it came out. Gladio is probably the pound for pound the best tank in the game at the moment. You can make arguments in different directions, but I think we can all agree Gladio is pretty nuts. And Exdeath is just great. Okay, so maybe not. Exdeath is here though because he fills the sword requirement, he fills the color requirement I was looking for, and he did something I was hoping for, which is he gives some extra damage during Vayne's free turns with his BT effect. That was all I was really looking for, because, when the time comes, Vayne's just going to be taking a bunch of turns, and I was like, normally I'd pair him with follow-up units, but we can't really do that. The reason Gladio's here is in hopes that I was hoping that I could take advantage of the off-turn component of Vayne's force time if the enemy took turns, and get some extra counter procs here and there for some extra bonus. It doesn't really work out that way, but it also just generally keeps us safe. Certainly feels like a bit of a waste to use him here, but hey, triple Greatsword, can't complain. So what's going on in this fight? Oh, right. So, the way the Shinryu works for these, and I can talk more, I'm going to be doing a video for the other Shinryu as well. You can choose different codes to change the force weakness that the enemy has. I guess similar to changing the Lufania orbs for the last Crevasse we had, and for the Lufanias here, I guess. In practice, I think it kind of sucks. That's, I guess, the headline. For a few reasons. One, it's very specific, actually. One of the 2 codes, the one I'm using here, is you have to hit a ranged force weapon that dispels, and that's very, very specific. That's Balthier, and I guess if there are any ranged FRs with E-spheres, I don't know if there are any off the top of my head, vanilla E-spheres, I should say, they could do it too, but, really it just says you're going to have to deal with this force time. And this force time is more of an annoyance. It's not that brutal. Basically, they gain a hefty HP regen on their turns for the 5 turns it's up, and they do the numb thing where you delay yourself every time you act. Which is, again, it's an inconvenience, but nothing too bad. We're gonna go ahead here and get Vayne's BT effect going. Big sword! There we go. Setting up for that force time that's gonna kick in right after they get out of their force time. The other thing about these guys, here we go. I forgot the other BT we're bringing in. Whoa. There we are. Love to see it. Nice little synergy. Vayne's BT has an attack up component, so Exdeath's doing more damage. That's great. That's team building right there. Team building 101. The other thing about this fight is, as you can see, the force gauge, they don't have anything in the way of health threshold. That 80% is just a stat increase. But while their force gauge goes up, they get progressively more and more kind of, buffs. Nothing super important. They become undeletable, undelayable, unlaunchable. That last one, that's the key right here. That's what we're looking out for. The reason we let their force play out, and the reason we're bringing Vayne here. We don't really need them to take turns. So we could no-turn them, and their force would go off, and it's not that big a deal. Okay, they'll delay us, and it'll be inconvenience, but, whatever. However, because their force reset, we're going to be able to use the Rain's Call here with Vayne, and kind of make up for the fact that we don't have any real follow-up units going in his burst phase. The important thing is, I think, once they hit 20%, they become undeletable, and they become undelayable and unlaunchable at the next threshold, which looks like 40%. So we're going to make sure that isn't a problem right now. We're going to go ahead and launch them into the sky. There we go. Boom. We got Kai's Call on them just to make sure that we have the full stack for Asame. This is going to be a pretty reasonably well-damaging force time. The thing is, having said all this fight isn't super challenging, I find. Their force time, yeah, they regen health, they delay you, it's kind of annoying. But they aren't super threatening with their attacks. And the force time itself isn't gonna, like, kill you or anything. It's kind of an annoyance. And so, like, I guess you can get stalled out by it if your team isn't bringing a whole lot of damage, but I'm guessing this is probably not the fight that that's giving people trouble. It's the reason I was able to bring this jank-ass squad, like, of Vayne, a tank, and Xeth. Like, what even is this team? It's a very me team, I guess. It's a very Bl'Artagnan team. Yeah, but that's about the size of it. I will say, because we can't do, like, the optimal setup with, you know, with the Crevasse lockouts, you know, Yang or Core or something, we're not going to one-shot them. We're going to give them, you know, they're going to have turns after this, and that's going to be something we'll have to deal with. But, again, it's not like they do a whole lot to threaten us. I understand why they don't, though. The thing is, one of the reasons I don't really like Crevasse is because, and this happened in the first one, and they said, and its defender said, oh, well, maybe now that they've perfected it, it'll be better later on. It's not. The fights aren't especially taxing because, in theory, most people are going to have to carry some kind of dead weight through here, be it like a bronze unit that fits the requirements, or like an Xeth or something. And with that being the case, like, they can't make the fight too taxing, can they? I mean, I guess, you know, unless they want to really make it kind of a pull bait kind of synergy thing, which it isn't, I'd say. A little misplay there. I actually fat-fingered the Brave attack. Felt dumb about that. Luckily, it's not a huge deal, but, like, oops. I also, another slight misplay, I rearranged it so that Xeth is going after Vayne, and that should have been Gladio, because we're going to miss out on a nice chunky force bonus from melee damage, so that's also kind of a pity. I kind of set this up a little suboptimally. I wanted to not use the Rain's Call on the force time, which means we ended up kind of, things shook out a little bit suboptimally here, but again, like, I think a lot of teams are going to be playing suboptimally overall. It's okay, though. Gladio and Brothers are going to deal a whole bunch of damage to close out the force time. We're going to do our best to just kind of blow them the heck up. Vayne's going to take a bunch of free turns. Between Brothers and Xdeath's BT and all that stuff, we're actually dealing respectable damage given that it's free turns. And the turn count's generous enough that we're not really worried. But yeah, and I'll probably, again, I have the other video that I'll post, I'll probably talk more about this, but Crevasse for me is a little bit of a miss. Like, my friend Goose put it really well, so I'll credit to him for saying is, you know, we were hoping that this event would make us use units we don't normally use, but what it ended up doing is it made us use units we normally use on worse teams, if that makes sense. I didn't find myself compelled to pull out, like, reach deep into my bag of tricks and find some unit I never pull out. I'm just like, okay, well, how can I make the units I use carry these other units through this in order to fulfill the arbitrary weapon and crystal requirements? Like, and I'd say the weapon requirement is the tricky one, partially because weapon types are poorly distributed, so, you know, like, shoutouts to Indolent Lard and his Whip Ultima weapon for 7, but, like, so that, like, right now, I'm doing great, because you'll see I have 2 Ultimate Weapon Greatswords, so I'm great in this event. But, like, people who don't do that, you know, somewhat questionable thing, it's, you know, it's not a surprise when they're like, man, it sucks, because the reductions in these fights are notable. If you aren't using Ultimate Weapons, you feel those reductions. And that sucks. So, like, between the distributions, just pure distributions, and then the fact that Ultimate Weapons are a thing, it really kind of feels bad. It makes me kind of miss Dare to Defy, because I didn't feel the same level of restriction in there. You know, it was, sure, yeah, it's copy-paste content or whatever, but it was, I found it fun. It was fine, because I could, like, I actually felt compelled to, like, try and come up with interesting teams that could deal with what should be top-end, high-tier kind of, you know, end-game fights when not able to repeat characters. I found that to be a much more compelling format than what we got going on here. Shame as it is to say. Anyway, we're about to close this out as best we can. The delays are going to make things take a little longer than they could have, but it's okay. Whoom. Cool. Gladio's going to go ahead and counter. They do heal up a bit. That's okay, though, because Gladio is actually going to get rid of B for us, so we don't have to worry about him healing. And now A isn't going for a few turns, and we can go ahead and kill him with our second, maybe unnecessary force time. But you know what? If you're going to go to town, might as well go into Lincoln. We're going to hit that force time with the final turn of the burst effects for that sweet bonus. It is, I think, going to fail to kill, which is kind of dumb, but it's okay. Xeth, take him down. He didn't take him down. Well, that was anticlimactic. Like I said, carrying certain jank units through this content. Anyway, that brings us to the end of Part 6. I'll post the part 7 video in a little bit, but I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching through to the end. Again, let me know in the comments down below. What do you run? What did you think of the event? Did you pull for Arden? I don't know. But anyway, that'll be it. Adios.